Welcome back. I'm Alfred Lambermont Weber, and we have the distinct honor and privilege to be with Mehran Keshe of the Keshe Foundation, who's speaking today from Belgium, I believe. Mehran Keshe was born in Iran and is a graduate of the University of London as a nuclear engineer, and has completed a system for the production of gravity and energy and a new plasma nuclear system that has many practical applications, ranging from space travel to transportation here on Earth to the production of food. And we can get more into that in the interview. Importantly, Mehran Keshe has said that world peace is the byproduct of these new technologies, which is a very profound insight. And he is now undertaken to a world peace treaty process, both at the individual level for all world citizens and also for all world leaders and nations. And that is also the subject of this interview. So welcome, Mehran Keshe.
Thank you very much. Thank you for trying again for the second time to see if you can get it correct.
Yeah, the audio is very clear now, so our listeners will be very, very, very happy. They were just overjoyed to learn of this interview. So tell us more about this, about both the technologies, but also how the World Peace Treaty process began and where it stands now.
The World Peace Treaty, which we have put out, I don't know if your viewers have seen the previous interview we had with you. Since we talked last week, as you know, now we have submitted a copy to be handed over to the Pope, and it was physically handed over yesterday, on Saturday. It's handed over to Ambassador and to be given to another president of the nation. And after our interview with you last week, on Friday morning, I received a call from the Embassy of Bolivia that the Bolivian government would like to have the USB stick, which carries all the patterns and information and the blueprint. And so since the last time we talked on Wednesday, we have one more member into the spaceship program, what I call club, which now covers 3 South American nations. The process is very simple, and we have handed over in all cases. When I visited by the appointment given to me by the Embassy of Bolivia, a copy of the dossier of all the peace treaty and the packages which goes with it as a package to the ambassador's office, and one copy to go back to the president that he signs into the same thing. So all the governments who have received the USB stick of the Keshe Foundation for the spaceship program, now this week will receive a copy of the peace treaty which goes with it. Next week we will have additional people on. Just 1 second, please. I forgot to switch my mobile off.
That's fine.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
We start again. Yes, it was your colleague.
Oh, good.
The German. He's
yes.
trying to find that. Yeah. So we have the peace treaty is going with a package of the USB stick from now on. which means you have the knowledge from now on. Now the knowledge commits you to peace as a nation, as an individual, as an ambassador or a president. In next 2 weeks, as I said before, a large number of embassies and ambassadors will receive a copy to be transmitted to their governments. The process is very clear, and more in the past few days it's become much more clearer for us that how the governments are going to respond. We have received a lot of positive response from banking world and the financial world in past few days. There are banking groups who are ethically investing, or their job is to invest ethically, and they see with the peace treaty and the technology they want their nations to be part of. So in next week, 10 days, we are locked in to meet World Bank authorities that they would like to do ethical investing, to develop it for their nations. And I'm proud to announce that from yesterday, we have officially one of the top members of the World Bank as one of the directors of the Keshe Foundation.
Wow.
He has accepted it, and he will be responsible for Keshe Foundation for Africa. He's a very well-known figure in the world community, in the banking world community, and he has been with us for some time. He's been close to the foundation, and as of this week, more or less, he'll be becoming, by the end of this month, a full member, active member of the Keshe Foundation. I would like to welcome him. We'll announce him very soon on the foundation forum once all the agreements is reached and done. So we have to see where we go from now on.
Excellent, excellent. Could you share with our viewers a bit about the technology? What is the fundamental breakthrough, and what are some of the applications?
The technology breakthrough is understanding the process of creation of gravity and replicating the process in a small system. What this means, as I explained in my previous talk, is that our forefathers looked at the skies and copied the birds, and it took us thousands of years before we could copy the bird to fly. And now we call that bird aeroplane. Now, with this new technology, in advancement in nuclear and plasma technology, we look at the structure of the working of the universe to create motion and energy. As always mentioned in my talks, we do not see a single star or a single planet which has got wings and jet rocket engines on it. But all the planets have been moving for billions of years in the universe, without any control room, without any, what I call a furnace to burn fuel in it. What happens in the universe is that conditions are created that the magnetic field interactions within the structure creates two factors, two motions, two forces. One is gravitation and one is repulsion. What this means is that in the normal physics today, we work and we think on the basis of a straight rectangular magnets. What this means is that we look at a magnet. I show you, I think it'll be the easiest way to do it for your people to understand. Last time I promised you and we forgot to do it.
No.
You see, what happened, this is the shape we are used to in physics with magnets.
Right.
From the childhood. We call one side the North Pole and one side the South Pole, where the field come out of the north and go back into the south. In the universe, we don't see entities like this. These are man-made entities, and even within the structure of this man-entity magnet, there are atoms of iron or whatever is in there, which is made of plasmas of different sizes. The smaller size we call proton, the bigger size we call electron. The one which is slightly bigger than the two, we call it the mother, which is splits into electron and proton and your neutron. So in the universe, we see magnetic fields in this shape. What this is a spherical shape. It's a ring shape. This is the shape of the Earth. This is the shape of the Sun. This is the shape of the proton and electron. So in the world of physics, in the world of reality, even in our own atom of our structure of our atom, we see one magnet sticks to the other one. This we call gravitation. This comes from English language, gravitating, or sticking to. So in reality, in the universe, we don't see the square blocks, but we see spherical blocks, very much like this. So in one way, this is my cell, and this is this gravitational field of the Earth, so I stick to it. So, but in so many ways, I'm much smaller than that, so if we can see it with a smaller, I do it this way, which is easier to see. So your people can see. You have a smaller and a bigger. Doesn't matter what size we make it. These two entities have a field which comes out and a field which goes in. What comes out of the north of one has to go into the south of the other one. What comes out is exactly explaining physics in a very simple way, is what comes out of a tunnel in a motorway or a highway, you call it, has to go into another tunnel. We call what comes out the exit of the tunnel, and what goes in the entry of the tunnel. So when the exit and entry match, the two attract, because then becomes a single traffic. If you put two tunnels which all the traffic is coming out of, you need to make a space that the traffic can go somewhere. So you create a gap. The bigger gap, the easier the flow is. So when you put a magnets in front of each other which are the same polarity, be it both north, both south, the difference is in the north is too much traffic coming out from two tunnels. They have to create a gap for them. And in the south is the same. They have to create a gap that all the fields can go in smoothly. So this process applies to the spherical shapes as well. So you have a field which comes out on the term of the Earth, we call it the North Pole, where the fields come out. And then as the fields travel away from the entity, the fields interact with other fields in the environment, so they lose part of their strength. So as they get weaker, the stronger center, which is the center of gravity in the center of the Earth, pulls them back in. So the fields go back into the Earth again from the South Pole, or what we call the South Pole. So in reality, what you're going to get is you find that entities up to now, we talked, a lot of scientists who never understood physics spoke about anti-gravity. Anti-gravity is the terminology used by the scientists who never understood physics. Anti-gravity is non-existence. The anti-gravity comes when you have two polarities similar, so you see, doesn't matter what I do, I cannot bring one magnet near the other one. They keep their resistance, they keep their distance. You see, one moves. We can use it very simply. So this gap in between becomes the magnetosphere. We call it the atmosphere of the Earth. This is the gap which is created and the field allows to go. But if I turn the same magnet on the other side, it gets attracted. So this field of attraction is not just here, immediately next door. It's somewhere here because the fields are established. As you come closer, then becomes the strength one gets pulled to the other one. In the universe, you have two. You have repulsion and attraction. And where this interaction of attraction and repulsion between one entity is balanced off, this is the place where the entity finds position. I'm going to show you this very simply. You will see we have the same magnets again. If I move now, one magnet is slightly higher, the other one moves in the position to find its place. I don't use any energy. This is a very easy way to see it. If you move one, the other one moves with it. The center doesn't move. So what happens? That the material finds space, positioning, which means you have two forces of gravity. Now we increase it to 3, it's easier to see. You see that? You just need to move one and the other two move with it. because the other two have to find a position where their fields are comfortable in respect to each other. You make the center the Earth, you put this one, make the center the Sun, you make this the Earth. Doesn't matter what sizes you choose, you'll see the gap changes according to the strength. If you notice the distance between the two, and now if I put different magnets, you find it change position slightly. As you choose different magnetic field of different strength, the gap between them changes. So this is how, in fact, if I change this magnet again to another magnet, if you just observe the position changes. They don't keep, because where they are comfortable, they sit. So where two gravitational fields and two magnetic fields, attraction and repulsion, that's 4 forces, find comfort or a balance, this is the position where the thing sits. Now for the first time you understand why Earth has such a position, a constant distance from the Sun. Because Earth creates gravitational magnetic field. On its own, if it was nothing else, it would sit there, for example. But now we have Jupiter, we have Saturn, we have other solar system structure within our solar system. You see, when there are in 2 of them, they take a very funny, easy, balanced position. Yeah? If I add a third one to it, you see, the other 2 move to find comfort position, balanced position. So Earth finds its position according to gravitational magnetic field of the Sun and other planetary system within the solar system. So once you understand this, the simple thing is, if I want to be on Earth, let's say I want to be 100 meters away, I create a gravitational magnetic field, I'll be 100 meters away. If I want to be 1,000 meters away, I create a different strength. So there is no need burning for anymore. And the beauty of it, which is, as I said before in our other talk, is that NASA scientists in the past few months since they received the key have understood exactly what we are talking about. When I handed the key to the American officials, I explained to them in a very simple system. At the moment, when we want to send a rocket into space, the payload is how much fuel we put into this cylinder. We call it the rocket propulsion. And then the height and the duration that this matter, this entity can fly, depends how much fuel is in it. Now, if you understand how the positioning is dictated, you want to go to the moon, you create gravitational magnetic field of the moon in your system. I try to show you this if it can be seen in a very simple way. You look, there is no fuel burned. There is no fuel ever burned. But you see, object flies into the other one. So in the spaceship program, what we call the spaceship program with the Keshe Foundation, and what at the moment the Iranian spaceship program is the same, is that we create gravitational magnetic field of a position in respect to the Earth. Now we're learning to create gravitational magnetic field in respect to the moon. The moon trips are finished in being an astronaut, being trained for thousands of hours for years in advance. The beauty with this system is, as I showed you in 2 magnets, where these are the similar poles, you see, it doesn't matter what I do, I cannot bring them together, yeah? You see, I don't know if you see the motion of one in respect to the other one. Mm-hmm. This gap is the atmosphere which is between the 2. This is a shielding effect. So, with the present new technology, a spaceship program, you have a shielding effect. You have an atmosphere around your system. Where in this atmosphere, you create a natural 1G, the way we are. Somewhere between the Earth and the Sun, there is a zone, it's 1G. The 1G is not exclusively of the Earth. Sun, which is several thousand times bigger than Earth, gravity on the surface of the Sun is 28.5 times more than the Earth. Somewhere between 28.5 times and the Earth, between the 2, there is a 1G zone between our planet and the sun, because it doesn't go 28.5 and nothing. So now we can create 1G anywhere around our system. When you have 1G, it's very much as I say, if you want to go from Brussels to New York, you don't go and get trained for 6 months in advance. When you buy your ticket, they don't teach you how to get on a plane, because they create this false 1G through compression in the aircraft, in the jetliners. Now we create in our system the natural 1G. And because it's a natural 1G, anybody can be on the moon or Mars as long as they can afford to buy a ticket. Because you don't need to be trained. You don't, the weightlessness is a meaning thing in the reality of the universe. Weightlessness is due to man's not understanding the process of the creation, but on the other hand, has been part of our process of understanding, our maturity in science. So we're mature enough to go to the next step. We start learning and clothing ourselves when we came out of the cave. We start learning how to use the fire to preserve energy, to become more intelligent. As you know, man's intuition or intelligence start becoming more advanced from the time when the man found about the fire, that he could cook it, and it was easier. What used to take 5 hours to digest, now with cooking it takes 1 hour to digest with our body. Now we went in the process of what we call the steam engines and all sorts of things. We've gone through the process of propulsion, and now we come to the process of understanding the process of the creation in the universe. And what we do is exactly how the universe works. You change the scale according to your understanding or part of your expertise. What I showed you as 4 rings in a very simple way, just change because the understanding is the same. What you have to do, this is the 4 rings which I showed you. Very simply, put the 4 rings in operation. What do you see? Just give them a name. Oxygen sits in the center because oxygen, the vacuum of the body, is a magnetic field producer. One is nitrogen, one is hydrogen, one is carbon. Then you start understanding how simple new processes for health can be done. The point with us, why we're looking at this, is Keshe Foundation is a spaceship program. In a spaceship program, we have the same responsibilities as any other space agencies. I adore the way the Iranians are doing their work. We noticed very recently they put a monkey in space. I was told when I was in Tehran 2 years ago, this is the next step that is coming up, and they were training the monkeys. So when you take a man to space, like any other space agencies, you are responsible, as I say, the man in the space is worse than a child. A child, you can leave him on the floor, he can find something to eat, or he can do something with it. A man in space, you have to organize and everything for him because he has no strings. There is no umbilical cord attached to him to space and earth. You have to see to his health, to his food, to his water, to his air, his entertainment, his psychology, his every need while he is in your hand and you are in charge for him. It's very much when you're on the aircraft, when you travel from Brussels to New York, the airline is responsible for everything you need more or less on the aircraft. So being in that process, being like a space agencies of other are in the spaceship program and the space program, we had to look what are the needs and how, instead of relying on the old way or the traditional way, now we understand how the universe works. We have to adapt our systems accordingly to the new understanding. So we start looking in how we can use our knowledge in respect to health of the man. What can we do? My thoughts has been from the beginning of this research 40 years ago, understanding that I was born in a house where x-rays and medical system has been part of bread and butter of the house, has been that We cannot take all the medicines and all the doctors with us into space. So every craft travels to deeper space, has to have heart surgeons, brain surgeons, this, that, and everything else. And then we have to have all the medicines for all the diseases and all the tablets. But if you look, tablets and injections, these things are something very new in the past 40, 50 years. Our ancestors, even today, it's become the terminology alternative medicine, which is actually the new medicine is alternative. Herbal medicine and all the things, the roots, which has brought 1 man to 7 billion of us, has worked. But has been the natural process of understanding interaction of the matters which comes from the earth to the man, and we've used it. They call it herbal medicine. To me, the new medicine, pharmaceutical, is an alternative. The reality is, we understood, our ancestors understood the interaction of what's in a herb, what's in the root of something, and they gave it to us. But we cannot take these things. The problem is, with us, with a new understanding of the structure, is that the energy of magnetic gravitational field of the sun arrives at the earth, in interaction with the gravitational magnetic field of the earth, reduces so rapidly from the high strength to a lower strength of the light, and the divisions of the light, X-ray, gamma rays and vitamins and everything else, and then part of it, which is very weak in the strength, becomes matter. Matter is one of the most weakest strength of magnetic fields which we can have. So the magnetic field and the gravitational field of the sun interacts with our planets. In the interaction, slows down enough, and we have chosen names for different packages of this field after it slowed down. We call this package vitamin A, we call it that package vitamin D, we call it this potassium. But in fact, because all these things are made of the magnetic gravitational field of different strength, we have got the habit of absorbing these into matters, like let's say a carrot for vitamin A and something else for vitamin D. And then we put this in our mouth, it goes into our digestion system, and the reverse process starts again, going back to gravitational magnetic field to be a field. That's all our digestion system is. Reversal of becoming matter into the field that we can absorb as energy, that we can live, and the whole process from the neck down is this energy to be able to supply enough fields to the brain to operate, to think, and do the function. So now what we had to do was actually develop a technology which is independent of matter. So you want to have a vitamin A, we calculate, we understand the magnetic gravitational vitamin A, and we just let you have it. You don't need a digestion system. You want a gravitational magnetic field of what we call vitamin B12, we create it for you, because now we understand it. Because even though it's called vitamin B12, vitamin B12 is gamma ray, which is, if you tell people I'm going to give you radioactive material to eat, nobody will touch B12. But B12 is a radioactive material which actually, without it, we would not divide. Our cells would not divide. When a mother gets pregnant, the minute the doctors knows you are pregnant, they prescribe for you folic acid. The mothers are immediately given. What is this? This is a radioactive material they give you to speed up the process of the division of the cell of the child in an orderly manner. That's all it is. So scientists don't explain to people on the street the reality of what the science is. So we understand this. Now we use this to build a system which creates different gravitational magnetic field for different diseases. So when you have a cancer, what happens in the cancer process of cancer, for example, we go back to the same R3 magnets, because with this you can explain everything about creation. You are a man, you come under stress, you lose a child, you're usually a man. We see a prostate cancer with a man when something happens or there's a conflict between father and son. because you gave life through your prostate to the child. A mother has a problem with a daughter, we see womb cancer. This is the data collected now, scientifically accepted. You lose a mother or you have a conflict with a mother, you get a breast cancer. Why? Breast cancer is because it's something you give life to through your breast. You milk a child. You feed a child through it. And if the mother has made your life so bad, you decide in your psychology, I don't want to make another child like me suffering. So what do? You cut the piece which is cause of it, the breast. We understand the full psychology of these things more or less, and we are expanding more. So what happened? In other cases, you create, this is a normal position of the cell, let's say the amino acid. You stress yourself. What happened? The stress creates a field. That's all it is. So what happened? Without any interaction, the field make the cells to move directly in different position. That position now has created different gravitational magnetic field which interacts and attracts different matter. Let's say attracts copper or zinc. So what happens now? You have a zinc which is heavy material stuck to your cell. So heavier gravitational field attracts the weaker. So it becomes solidified, it changes through your thymus, the gland, so it starts solidifying, it becomes cancer. All I need to do, understand this process, and this is what we are researching in now. We are very at early stages of this process. All I do, this is a cancer position, all I do, I create a field within the plasma that the cell goes back to its normal condition. It's as simple as that. So in a space, I don't need to carry any more medicine. I don't need to carry any doctors, because once you understand that you can measure what field has created what changes, this is magnetic and gravitational, not magnetic only, then you understand how in a space you don't need to take, you just collect data from the disease. In a space, the diseases we have, the viruses we have on Earth is nothing compared to what we're going to come across in the space. I cannot send a guy back all the way to Earth to go to a pharmaceutical for 10 years to do a clinical trial. There, you immediately measure the gravitational magnetic field, what is done, in what is moved, and then you make appropriate actions for it. By the same measure, as I said in my last talk, Teflon was a byproduct of space technology. The new pharmaceutical world will work on the field. These tablets and injections, as I said before, is something very new, 40, 50 years. And we become so addicted to it. Without that, in our mouth, we don't work. And funny enough, the doctors won't get themselves with the chemotherapy. I have more doctors on my table with the cancer who will not do a chemotherapy to themselves and their family because it doesn't work, it does more damage. This way, we don't have that problem. So, pharmaceutical world will be benefited by this new technology, in addition to it. Now they have to sell data, information about gravitational magnetic field. We have seen changes in Alzheimer's through this process. We have done clinical trials now nearly for 8-10 years. In some we are successful, in some we are not successful because we haven't understood the full strength of the field. It's not that we are wrong, it's just that we haven't got the right measure. We have found solutions for diseases like fibromyalgia. We fully understand the process of ILS and MS. We can clearly explain how MS sets in. This, what I always call the Godfather's bedtime story of Earth being the center of the universe, which we found out is wrong, is very much the same as what the doctor says, myelin gets distorted, disappears, and then you get MS. No myelin ever changes in the body of an MS patient. Never happens. The only thing is, in a very simple way, in the same structure as I showed you with these magnets, all it is, in the amino acid structure of the body, one of the carbons in the cell changes from a resistor, which is a diamond structure, to what we call a carbon, which is a conductor. And that's all it happens. What happens? If you know, diamond is not just the only love of women because of its beauty. Diamond is the best resistor we know in a material state, more or less. It's the best resistor. So on the amino acid, the carbon of the amino acid stays due to the pressures in the neural system in the body. The body of man is a beautiful vacuum condition. It stays in a diamond structure. So there is no leakage. The minute you get a stress, we understand the process of MS now. The minute you create a certain condition, you release some of the pressure in the neural system structure of amino acid. When you take a stress away from carbon in a diamond state, it converts to the carbon exactly like what you write your pens with, a graphite. It becomes the best conductor because we use it on the brush and the motors. So now, your carbon has become a conductor instead of when it was a resistor. What happens? You get a leakage between the cells, between the neural system, you get what they call MS. We know this is correct because I was invited by the professor, the head of the MS in the University of Frankfurt, to go and see him, that they know how we are progressing with our MS. And he said, Mehran, do you know what we know, how we know who's got MS and the process is getting better and better? Is by the grayness of the spinal cord and the gray spots on the head. Because what happened, diamond is very hard material. Graphite is very soft. This is what you write in the pen. If you look at the MRI of the patients with MS, you see the brain, the two halves of the brain change shape very clearly. The doctors know it. What happened? You have two halves like this, normal brain. As you get MS, the hard carbon changes to soft graphite, it crushes. And you see the brain twisting. One twists the other one. So this change of the brain, you will see changes the variation in the pressure in the inner ear. That's why the MS people fall. You see them, they are not stable. Then we know when the carbon changes from the diamond structure, which is a transparent, to a graphite, which is black, what happens when you mix chalk in the milk? You get grayish color. Now we even understand why the doctors see in MRI gray color of the neural system and why we see lesions of the gray in the brain of the MS patients. It's simply no myelin has ever changed position. This is all rubbish because never understood. Now scientifically we can explain it. This is a discovery done by us, by the foundation, and it's part of our intellectual right property which sits with us. So a lot of things has become clearer. We look at other aspects of cancer, Alzheimer's, Parkinson. In Parkinson, we can find a lot of solutions. And very recently, we are looking into the shaking. We can do a lot with Parkinson. The only thing we can't stop at the moment is the shaking of the hand. But the brain structure has been MRI'd by the hospitals here in Belgium. And in 6 months process, they have seen 3 years reversal in the brain of the MS patients, which means the carbon changes into diamonds, so the softer brain starts taking its own structure back. So this is part of the health program. But at the same time, in a space, we can't take food with us. Food is the same as the whole process of the medicine. So what we have to do, not only find energy level to be food that you don't need to carry, but initially, if you go on the Keshe Foundation, space.com, we announced 4 or 5 years ago, we will not be carrying any food in space because there is no need for it. We can transfer the energy of what you need. But human body has a big weakness, and we call it the digestion system. I can feed you with the energy, but I have to put something in your digestion so you start bleeding internally and all the problems. So we had to look for a process of changing or creating matter in an easy way for man to be able to at least have something to go in the digestion system. So we start looking at the structure of real structure of the universe with a new understanding of gravitational magnetic field. Then about 5-6 years ago, I wrote a paper in 2006-07 that gases can become matter at room temperature and pressure. I was told this is crazy. As we know, Einstein was a not co-writer, but he modified a paper for a scientist, German scientist in 1920, to say that you can have gases in a solid state at minus 100 and odd degrees temperature, but room temperature. And 2010 Nobel Prize went to a scientist who proved this can be done. You can have a solid, gases at solid state at room pressure, but at minus so much degree. So they gave him a Nobel Prize. But in fact, what I said was that you can have gases in solid state at room pressure and temperature. So you can have a solid anywhere in the universe. And they told me you're crazy. So my craziness took me to the point of developing a system to confirm I'm correct. Having in mind I'm an engineer. So what I think I can make, I'm not a theoretical physicist. So I sat down and looked at the full structure of the universe, how gases and magnetic fields become matter. In the present world of physics, we know three matters. One is solid. Where we increase the pressure or temperature, it becomes liquid. And when we increase pressure or temperature or change it, it becomes a gas. These are the three states of matter we know. There is a stupidity in the world of physics. They call it the fourth state of matter, plasma. Plasma is not a fourth state of matter, it's an entity on its own. But there is a fourth state of matter, what we call GANs, which is gases at nano state in a solid state. What this means, it means you can convert gases and fields into a solid matter at any pressure temperature. What this means, it means on Earth temperature, atmosphere, room pressure temperature, we can convert the gases to become solid. Because now we understand we can change gravitational magnetic field. So you create gravitational magnetic field of, let's say, carbon. But, so what it does, it creates a material which has got the property of carbon, behaves like a carbon, but is independent of the pressure and temperature. And they told me again, you're crazy, this cannot be done. So in 2009, we developed a material, we call it the GANs of CO2. What we did, we absorbed the gases of the CO2 from the environment and immediately convert into a solid material or a liquid of CO2. We gave the material to the University of Kent scientists to examine Raman spectroscopy and with infrared spectroscopy. They confirmed it's a new discovery. This is the fourth state of matter. And it was classified and blocked by the Belgian government and the rest because Iranian nuclear physicists cannot be that clever to find the fourth state of matter. It's just because I carry an Iranian passport, I'm still an Iranian subject. So I said, doesn't matter. They blocked us. We were kicked out of the university. You cannot publish anything about this guy. He's a terrorist and the rest of it. So I put my papers in my book. So now we published the paper that you can have gases, how you can have gases. And in this process, I said, you don't understand. When you say you can't have gases in a solid state, at room pressure and temperature, it's because of your ignorance. It's because of your stupidity. Because we go back to the same thing. We go back to this thing. This is your amino acid. Yeah? Carbon, a gas. Hydrogen, a gas. Nitrogen, a gas. Oxygen, a gas. How come fourth state of matter has become your physical body? If you just push your 2 fingers in your own flesh, just pinch yourself. What are you pinching? Solid state gases. So if you say this is impossible, you deny your own existence. So now we know with the new discovery that how we can convert gases into this. And we gave this one to what they call the Earth Challenge, which is headed by Mr. Richard Branson. It's Sir Richard Branson, because they put the Earth Challenge price $25 million, and Mr. Al Gore was one of the board members for the climate warming and the rest of it. And when we submitted it, somehow the whole price has disappeared. And funny enough, MIT has picked up part of our paper trying to say that we discovered that we can make a tree which can absorb CO2. We already done it. And then in a very simple way, now we have our own body, and 25 million is sitting in the pocket of Mr. Richard Branson. Someday he'll pay to the foundation because he knows he made a mistake. But on the other hand, the foundation does not believe in peer review. I do not believe in peer review. There is a reason for it, and the reason for it is very simple. If you go on I've written 3 books, and the 4th book is coming out tonight before I come in the program. The first book is already being translated into German. It's going on sale tonight. In the 4th book, if you look at the page 151, allow me, you can cut this out, or I can come back. Just one second.
Sure.
Yeah. What happened in book number 3? Yeah. As I said, I don't believe in peer reviewing, the reason being. In 2004, I sent the first paper for peer review. The title of the paper was The Creation of Black Holes. In this paper, me being still an amateur writing papers, was the first paper I ever published, because I never believed in these things, but they told me you have to publish things that you get, recognition. I submitted this paper, The Creation of Black Holes. In this paper, I explain in a very simple way that how black holes are created. Black holes leak radiation and fields just because we can't see them. Black holes are the center, the mother of any system, and they produce light and everything else. This paper was given to be peer reviewed by eminent scientists in England. I sent the paper to a very well known, journal, astrophysics journal. It's called Royal Astronomical Society. If you are published in this paper, you're God in astrophysics and cosmophysics. I sent this paper in April, and on the 8th of July, I received a letter from the society that my papers are not in the format and they cannot be published, but they'll be kept in the library of the society. The paper is dated 7th of July. In the post, I received on the 8th of July. Strange enough, if you go on the internet and put Mr. Eminent Professor Stephen Hawking, on the 8th of July, he announced he's changed his mind and the black holes do leak. And then, if you look, this is the paper. This is the book number 3. It's called The Creation of Universe, The Origin of Universe. Page 151, it reads, if you can read it, it's called The Creation of Black Hole.
Yes.
Yeah. And then for me not to say the guy's talking a lot of rubbish, and I stand my ground very correctly, I put a copy of the letter from the institute, the society.
Right.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So, who is fooling who? I went to Cambridge because I used to live in England. I went to see Mr. English, the senior advisor to Mr. Stephen Hawking. I said, what the heck is going on? They receive a paper for peer review and they steal it. He said, this is normal with this guy. He always steals everything. Nothing is his.
Hawking.
Yeah. So, and strange enough, this book has been published over a year. Mr. Hawking, lawyers, and everybody else knows. In the book I've written, very strange about the topic, the time, the date of the announcement, and losing a shirt because he lost the shirt to his friend. Yeah, he made a presentation on 21st of July in Dublin. He announced on the 8th of July. Just go on the internet, you see it. That people who attended that meeting says it was so much rubbish. The guy just obviously didn't know what he was talking about. And so from that day, I made a decision. I write my books, I write my papers, I release things on my internet. Every man can peer review according to his own intelligence. You take what you can according to, you don't need somebody else to tell you what to think. You don't let your wife choose what you eat, what you wear. Why should you allow a scientist, so-called scientist who have no clue about science, to decide in what you're right to understand? So, strange again, the name of the title of this book is The Origin of the Universe. Book number 3. This book, for its publication, celebration of publishing the book, we had a presentation day on a Friday night in Leuven University. Leuven University in Belgium is very much like MIT.
Yeah.
You are God if you go to this university.
Yeah.
We gave a lecture, full packed house, and about the title of the lecture was The Origin of the Universe. The book was published. So, can you hear me? Because
Yes, I can hear
feedback.
you. No, I can hear you perfectly.
Perfect. So we announced I think my system is running out of battery. I'm going to switch the phone.
I'm sorry. Yeah, okay. No, I can't hear you now.
You can't hear me now at all?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, okay. So what happened? We put a lecture day for presentation of the new book called The Origin of the Universe on a Friday afternoon. They went around the university, they take all the posters off that nobody can come to this lecture, but it was already sold out. Strange enough, out of nowhere, the following Tuesday, Professor Hawking appeared in Leuven University, giving a lecture. You can go on the internet. The title of the lecture:
The Origin of the Universe. Amazing. You know, with this new microphone, it's breaking up. It's breaking up just a bit.
With this way, I'll go back on the other one and think we can catch.
Yeah.
Okay, just 1 second, please.
Yeah.
Can you hear better now?
Yeah.
It's better.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. How is it that this breakthroughs in technology will lead the world leaders to enter the World Peace Treaty process? What is that? What is it about this time and these technologies that will lead humanity and the world leaders into committing themselves to let go of war as an industrial activity and as a method for conflict resolution?
I wrote a letter to Universal House of Justice and United Nations around 2000, 2002. In my letter, I said my technology will not be accepted because of the love of it. It will be accepted out of the fear of its annihilation. So what does this mean? We showed the reactor to Boeing in 2009. They asked for a meeting. They brought their expertise from Spain and from Europe. We showed them the space reactor, which is developed and is part of the Iranian spaceship program. They would not even let it come to the building. They saw the system on the pavement because it's so small. And then to send a CD from Brussels to the headquarters in the state, knowing that Boeing has about 10-20 flights a day into Europe because they bring parts, it took 2 months. And then what they told us off the record, which we could not say of the people who are involved in the background, this technology will endanger our program, which we invested several billion in the future. We have to block them. Knowing that Boeing was appointed by NASA to look into this, When we signed non-disclosure with NASA, NASA asked us, put us in touch with Boeing. We met with 3 members of the Keshe Foundation in European Space University in Strasbourg. And we explained to NASA scientists and the Boeing scientists where the change is. So the block came because the propulsion lab cannot close.
Right.
So when I was invited in 2008 by the Office of His Excellency President Ahmadinejad to go to Iran after 30 odd years to develop their space technology, I had the privilege of working with the Iranian scientists. We developed the basics of the spaceship program, and in past few months, as you can past 12 months plus, the Iranian government has to have a spaceship program. The space program is rocket propulsion weightlessness. The spaceship program is magnetic gravitational field with gravity, which means you live a normal life in space. And basically, according to scientists in NASA, we are 70 to 100 years ahead of what they're planning they might get to this point.
Wow.
What this means is that as you create an atmosphere around your system, you create non-friction, frictionless motion in space. The biggest problem we have in aircrafts, it was a Concorde. When the Concorde was coming from Paris to New York, was extended so many centimeters because of heat and friction.
Right.
Now your craft never comes across the atmosphere because your feet interacts with the atmosphere of the Earth. So you travel at higher speed, much, much faster. So as I said to our American colleagues when we handed over the key, was that we cross your country wherever we like, you can't detect us.
Right.
The reason being, when you have an object like this, let's say this in the craft,
Yeah.
when the radar hits you, it can tell when it goes back, there is something here because the wave goes back. Now, this material, the reactor sits in the middle, and you have a magnetic field around it. Magnetic field, what we call radio frequency, comes in, becomes part of this field. It never goes back. They can never detect it.
I see.
You understand?
Yeah.
So the system has become undetectable.
Yeah.
And this is the problem which scientists in America are battling with, which means we are undetectable. This brings another point into factor that you're undetectable. You can do what you like. Because now we work with the plasma, they work matter.
Yeah.
It's a different ball.
Yeah.
It's a different process. It's a different way of doing things. So we cross where we like, do what we like, without you ever protecting us. Because the only means of protection at the moment is the radar sees you.
Yeah.
So comes to another point which is very interesting. When the gravitational magnetic field of the Earth interacts with the gravitational magnetic field of the Sun, what do we get? The daylight. If this is the Sun, and if this is your Earth, where the field from the Sun hits the field from the Earth, the friction between four forces creates a friction like rubbing a hand, light, daylight. We don't get daylight on the back of the Earth because there is not much. So, with a new system, you have your system in the center, you have your magnetic field, which this gravitational magnetic field interacts with gravitational magnetic field of the Earth, exactly the same as the Sun. So what you call chemtrails up to now,
Yeah.
with jet technology, now when you run these reactors, the space technology, all you see is light. It's bright light in the sky. Because it's a natural process of interaction of fields, gravity and magnetic field.
Yeah.
So people say, oh, we see lights, we see things going. It says, but because no radar show, now we know why radar doesn't show, and now you know people are correct.
Yeah.
So this will be it's a structure of what we will see in the near future as an natural attraction of the fields. So now you say how it becomes causes peaks. When you have say and he flies the speed of Mach 30, Mach 40, would you like me to buy a $10 million, $20 million F-16 or F-18? Which if the magnetic field of this can literally destroy the internal structure of it working. The latest technology in what is fashionable defense technology is finished.
Right.
So we start a new life, we start a new process of war.
Right.
Because the beauty of it is, gave this technology to now over 65% of the world population government.
You mean you've given that technology to governments that control 65% of the world's population? Right.
China.
Russia.
American ambassador, American embassy, on the 6th of November, your day of election, at 3:45, when they knew that His Excellency President Obama is re-elected or about to be re-elected, they knew that this is sitting with us for months. Over 2 months they knew. We offered it to them. On the 6th of November at 3:45, I received an email from American Embassy. We would like to have the USB stick carrying Iranian nuclear plasma technology.
Wow. So this happened on...
We got released, yes.
Wow.
On your day of your election at 3:45, 3:48, we have a copy of the email. We can release it if they allow us. We have to respect their position.
Yeah.
And they appointed the 15th of November for us to meet, for them to receive the key.
Yeah.
The same as what happened with the Bolivian government on Friday last week.
Yeah.
So I attended the meeting as they appointed where it was supposed to be. I met with respect, the American high officials. I handed the key to him with all the technology. He said, even the blueprint of the reactor is in it. Even on ours, nobody does such a thing. We have given them the address. If you have problem manufacturing it, you can go there. But that's where we manufacture ours.
Amazing.
So precisely. So, and in that meeting, as I told you in the past meeting, I put my hand across the table to the American official. And I said, this is the hand of peace from Iran. All you need is to shake it. Then we can talk. And as I explained to you in our last talk, we know, or the indications are that the process of peace has taken some shape and form. We know that on the 2nd of December, aircraft disappeared or crashed or had an accident on American aircraft. Where Iran and America are supposed to be enemies, whatever, crashed in Ahvaz airport in south of Iran, and immediately the passengers of the aircraft were transferred to Dubai. Iran could have made a claim, is our hostages, they come to invade us. No, respectfully, the passengers were immediately shipped into Dubai and from Dubai into United States. And we know from the 2nd of December, now she's not in the position, but her Honorable Mrs. Clinton disappeared from the scene of politics. They said she's injured and she had some problem.
Yeah.
So then it's for you to read between the lines. So there is a peace talk. There is a movement by them, I hope they can do. and there is a mutual respect. And the strange thing is that the Iranian head of Ahvaz airport said, it's in the internet, you can read, that they allowed the Americans to come and repair their own plane on the runway. If there was animosity, if there was no friendship, these things would not take place. So there is a move on the peace side, and then when you find out that the most advanced military hardware made is obsolete, we start afresh. We start with a new understanding of new technology. With it comes that the beauty of it is we gave the technology to first nation was Sierra Leone, the poorest nation on this planet. Sudan in South Africa. Thailand, Taiwan, Chinese, South American governments. Now, once we start releasing the full technology, if you go on my forum, Keshe Foundation forum, Italians have started producing the first prototype in public. Now, past 48 hours, 72 hours, Bulgarians have put their copy they're building. So, Americans have already been developing their application. Because it makes sense when you read our patents, when you read our books, it makes so sense. This is what we ignored. So in a very near future, we'll see this system in operation. You cannot sell energy to Africa when they have their own system and it costs less than a few dollars to manufacture. You cannot sell medicine to another country where they can develop it themselves. We are all now energy producing, space producing country, nations. We all have the access to all the technology. What I did, I allowed my patents to be published, so I used the legal loophole. If I wanted to put my patent in public, I would have had all my technology in public. It would have taken me thousands of years to tell people where it is. But the nice thing is these greedy people, to protect their greed, they have established something called International Patent Organization. You give us what you think, we hold it for 18 months, you pay us, and within 18 months we're going to publish it. Then we tell you if you have a right to make money out of it. So what I did, I analyzed the process, it's fantastic. I submitted as a patent application, I paid for it, it got published, I paid for the second year. Now my reactor is published and I withdrew any further commitments. So my knowledge is yours, is in open. Nobody can patent or copy or push a gravitational system, because whatever you do, the patents are written in such a way that, oh, he has said that in his patent it can be done. It's a public knowledge. But we went another step in 2005, 2006. We set up what we call the Keshe Foundation. Keshe Foundation is a Dutch stichting. What it means is a charity organization, which is owned by itself and is given all my intellectual rights and all my knowledge is given to this foundation, and this foundation is managed, not owned, managed by United Nations. They appoint one director from the political point of view of humanity, one by Universal House of Justice in Haifa, which is collection of all the religions of the world. They come to an agreement to appoint one director. Then the religious people, because religion has to be in harmony with the science, they choose 8 of the eminent scientists in the world. United Nations has to choose 1 out of the 8 for the 3rd member of my foundation. Which means Keshe Foundation is owned by you. Every individual person, the child who was born a few seconds ago, he is a director of the Keshe Foundation. She's a shareholder. You are a shareholder, and the man who's 100 years is a shareholder of the Keshe Foundation. So the 3 decide how fast and how we do the technology transfer. But the other beauty thing with it is that now that we're becoming an international organization and we're setting up different Keshe Foundations around the world, we say we take 60% of the company to be set up, owned by the foundation. And in the agreement of the mandate of the company we put, the shares of the Keshe Foundation are priceless and can never be sold. So nobody can ever sell the share of a nation. It's yours, and what we make, 60%, which is our share, 40% stays with the nation, pension companies, whatever they want to call themselves, to have a share in it. That 60% gets repatriated to the people of that nation on a rate of 19%, which means for education, for poverty, for food, for health, and for religion. So everybody gets fed back. So what we have taken out of the structure, there are no more Saudi Arabias, that all the money for energy goes to one bank. What is made out of the Keshe Foundation is invested back into the country where the systems are used. So even, let's say, we have an agreement in our present agreement, which is if you sell one of the systems, let's say, to a third world nation, or you discover something new, the intellectual right of discovery becomes the ownership of the Keshe Foundation and immediately transferred to all the Keshe Foundations around the world, which means whatever I discover is yours within seconds, within minutes. And whatever the Keshe Foundation in China, which is getting set up as we speak now, becomes our asset, the same as you. And as it's your property, nobody can ever patent what is yours. You cannot go and patent things against yourself. So the knowledge, the know-how, the equality, the peace, world peace, all hand in hand comes from setting up a structure where there is no more need to fight for nothing, because how many tons of gold do you want? We have shown in Tehran in 2008 how you can convert atmospheric gases into gold. It's the same I explained to you earlier. If I get magnetic field, I know what it is and I can convert it to a matter. How much of this you want? You want, as I explained to you in my last talk, you want a drop of water, a glass of water, a bath of water, or ocean of water. It's still all the same. A smaller plasma is plasma. A glass of plasma gives you gold. Now I know how to make a glass of plasma. To solidify it. Yeah? Why we did this? The reason for developing such a technology is you want to build a structure in a space. You want to build a structure on the moon. You can't come back to the Earth and empty the mines of the Earth for aluminium or copper or whatever else. You use gravitational magnetic of the material which you have in the space, and then what you do, you take the balanced field, which is aluminium or iron, and you produce as much energy as you want from iron. This is a bit far-fetched for people. They think the guy is crazy. I'll show you something very nice. First of all, I want to show you something. If you look at this, I spoke to you about CO2. This is a CO2 in liquid state. It's been tested, Raman spectroscopy, infrared spectroscopy by University of Ghent. And all the graphs are on my book number 2. We published the paper. Then you want to see, this is a green one, if you can see it. This methane.
It's what?
CO2, methane.
Oh, methane.
CH4.
Okay.
Yeah? This is what we call the fart of a cow. If you change the color, it becomes green. Because it's tested, we didn't know. When they tested it, it comes out of Raman spectroscopy. So, and this is CO2 in a powder form. Whoever talks about global warming and CO2, tell them this is load of rubbish. It was a brainchild of a Dutchman who wanted to make money, and he did a very good job out of it. But now you can convert all the gases with understanding of gravity magnetic field to matter. So, but there's a problem, as I explained recently in my talks in Italy, is that if we convert too much CO2 too fast, the CO2 level which we are used to at the moment in the atmosphere of Earth has taken over millions of years and accumulation of plus whatever, and our body evolved, so we got used to it. If we draw and change the CO2 rapidly, we're going to cause new diseases for man.
Right.
We have to reverse the process.
Yeah.
So even that talk has a place to sit. I don't agree with the CO2 growing and the rest of it. Now we come to something else. I explained to you that how, if you've been to my demonstrations, you've seen this. This is a torch. Hopefully it works. It won't let me down. As you can see, it creates light.
Yeah.
Yeah? if you see, it has nothing.
Yeah.
There is nothing but a capacitor to absorb the energy. The material developed does exactly what I told you. It absorbs the magnetic field in residual, my temperature of the heat of my body, the light in the room, the decay of the chair, and it gathers it together, makes it light. And when you have the light, energy of the light, the same conversions happen when the energy and light of the sun hits the earth, becomes the light, and then becomes vitamin D and A. What would you like me to make from this light for you? Potatoes or meat?
Right.
You understand?
Yeah.
So now it's not a talk. Well, we are not talking. This is the reality.
Yeah.
And the officials and the governments understand exactly where this reality sits. The problem is, how are we going to break it? The idea was that we're going to piecemeal feed it to people,
Mm-hmm.
but you cannot do this. Because first of all, too many papers are written, too many patents are free in circulation. There are hidden patents which are under the key, we give it to the government. There are systems which are made and replicate the position, lift and motion. We have in the key, now we published it on our scale, on our videos on the website. You see we show in the scale because of the restriction in technology that how you reduce the weight of a system from 7 kilo to 6.1 kilo to 0 and you fly.
Mm-hmm.
This is how the Iranian spaceship program runs. And the whole process is, do we need to fight for what is free for all of us now? As I said to you before, how much greenback can you sell in the space? Does it have any value?
Right.
What are we fighting for? So the structure is, as it's in the, what do you call it, peace treaty. I promised to myself not even to think about the fighting or a war or incite a war or carry a tool of war. And then if you're a president, there's another paper, copy of it, the same thing, you sign on behalf of your nation, which means you commit your nations to peace activities. Yeah? There is a big debate now you have in a state. Gun lobby. We have a technology which we can, within matter of hours, dismantle every single gun in the world anywhere. Is it based on? Very simple. Very, very simple. What do guns use? Gunpowder. What do they use? In a simple form, I showed you what we can change, how we can change gases into liquid.
Mm-hmm.
You think it's very hard to withdraw all the materials from your guns, your bullets? The beauty of it is our brain limitation has been that magnets is only to do with metals. Now that we can produce gravitational magnetic field of any matter, you think gunpowder is very difficult to produce?
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, the technology is not with me anymore, so you cannot come and kill me and say it's finished. No, it's it. Now we have a group of scientists who are developing it. We have a nation who's doing it. The Iranian government, thanks to the Office of His Excellency President Ahmadinejad and His Eminence Ayatollah Khamenei, when the government at this state announces they have a spaceship program, they don't have one man sitting there doing something. It's a commitment by hundreds of thousands of scientists into the program. So it's not one man anymore. At the same time, we have given all the knowledge and technology to all the governments. Now, it was very surprising for me because we said in November, after finishing with the American government and the government of Congo, they received the key at the same day, was that from now on, instead of trying to get the embassies and governments to come and for us to get in touch with them, we would like to give you the technology. From now on, it's the job of the governments to get in touch with us because we've gone over 50%. And when I received a call from the government of Bolivia on Friday,
Right.
it showed governments are working in the background. Things are happening in the background.
Right.
The motions are in, the actions are in motion, and I'm sure we know, as I said in my last talk, the copy of peace treaty is sitting in the White House. 2 copies are sitting there.
Right.
We send one through the ambassador. We send one through the American officials here.
Yeah.
The same way as they asked us for the key for the peace, for the what do you call it, for the technology, the spaceship program. Through the same channels, we send the peace treaty to His Excellency President Obama.
Right.
So if he was interested in receiving the technology, now receiving technology has responsibilities of peace.
Right.
It cannot be one way. Just give it to me to what I like to do.
Yeah.
We gave it to you. Now the next step is, Your Excellency President Obama is sitting on your desk. Just sign it. It solves 2 problems for you. First of all, the gun lobby will finish. You already enforce it because you can explain to them, what would you like us to do? No more child needs to be killed by a gun by an idiot somewhere. But there has to be law enforcement within each government. Otherwise, the lunatics take over. We know that. Every time I go through customs, I'm the only one I've seen that go with a swap on my machine, on my things. As I'm Iranian nuclear, could be a dangerous thing. They check me out, and they check your body and everything. We need these. These have to be there. These are there for my protection. There's another idiot who does things and carries things on board to harm me or my family. We work closely with the security people. We work closely with the government, with officials, because you need the apparatus of protection. But at the same time, you have to be strong enough that your nation does not rely on guns to kill, to protect. We don't need, why do we have no armies from border of Portugal all the way more or less to Russia now? And where all these nations of French, German, and the rest were spending billions on defense technology, and all these armies, there are none there anymore. We have no more borders. And as I said in my recent talk, I had a delegation from the European community in my surgery a couple of 2 or 3 weeks ago. And one of the guys told me, the old man says, we made no borders. We made sure that there is no borders in Europe anymore. And we are proud of what we achieved. I said, I have made that there is no more borders anywhere in the world. Because you don't need the armies. We need to protect the population, but we don't need armies. Why should a nation pay most of its income to defend what? A ghost enemy? I wrote an article on my forum very recently, past few days. Iran has become the axis of evil for the certainties of nuclear material production because it's become a competition to nuclear producing countries. Iran has become a ghost enemy for past 20 years. There has been a ghost enemy for Arabs which has sold a lot of arms to Arabs called Israel. So Iran and Israel have both been the ghost enemies. We had a ghost enemy called Russia with the Cold War. How much arm was sold? So this ghost enemy defense technology is something which has come to an end. It's very simple. The simplicity of it is the present space technology, spaceship program wipes out the old usage of arms. And on the other hand, when you have such a technology in your hand, you can feed everybody, look after everybody. Instead of spending billions in arm manufacturing factories, use the same factory. Use the same machinery to make tools of peace, space programs, other things. This is not a joke, this is a reality. I'm a full-time scientist since 2002. I graduated from Queen Mary College in 1981. For 20 years, while I was researching to discover the final stages of and developing a system, I worked in the international scene at a very high level. Very high level. One of the things which happened to us was in 1990s when the Eastern Bloc changed, when the Eastern Bloc opened up, when the Poland opened up, when the Czechoslovakia opened up, and there was no more Eastern Bloc. There was no need for the Russian arms and tanks and these kind of things. But the armies were still there, the soldiers had to be fed, the factories were still there. At the beginning it was a chaos for a few months. Then I was part of a larger scale of businessmen who started using these factories to make pianos. We changed the tools of war to music. We imported hundreds of thousands of pianos. If you go into Belgium, in Germany, in Poland, in England, and you have an upright black piano, it's definitely made in a tank factory in Poland or Russia. I imported them. We imported the material, which was these boxes. The cover was the boxes to put the arms in. You can't carry guns and things. You know, if you see the old Russian military boxes, these are the same boxes. We use the same boxes. And the only thing is, they converted pouring the metal into a tank engine into making the frame of the piano. We bought buckets. We made galvanized buckets out of it. There are millions of them in Europe. These are the tools of peace which we used at that time. I know what I still have the pianos here. I still have the buckets. Tool of war became feeding a man. Tool of war became the tool of peace and music. Why not? All it is to change the position. And this is not a fairy tale. I recently, I've been waiting for a visa to give a lecture to NASA by invitation of NASA for nearly 3.5 months. And I explained to your American officials, if I tell you what I know, will shake a few nations. I have been involved in peace programs somewhere else. When I talk, it's not just something I dream as a scientist. We've been involved, I've been personally involved, first-hand, daily basis, to bring peace to the most troubled part of this world. And I said to the Americans, I'm prepared to release my documents that we're not talking. When I talk about peace and changing the thing, is something which I've been involved in heavily over 10 years. I've been there, I've done it, and I've seen how when the Russia changed, when we used to sell carpets and things to Russia, we've been the cause, we've been the part of the process. I know how it can be done. It could be a bit of hardship at the beginning, but on the other hand, it'll be good. We've seen it. Now Poland has become one of the major forces in the European community. When the door opened up, we used to bring things out of Poland and going into the factories where the people had no food to eat. When I used to go to Kazakhstan, in Almaty, or in Moscow, people used to walk out with 2 chickens on their arms to feed on the pavement because they had no food to give them, and what that chicken laid an egg was the only food of the family. I've been through the process, and we set up to change, and we've done the change. Not me, but there's hundreds of thousands of businessmen who could see a business opportunity at the same time a change. So it has to be done, it will be done. But this time is done in a very different way. Keshe Foundation doesn't talk about it. Talk about the peace. The peace treaty we put is not just for signing. We are the only organization that have the tools to enforce it. And as I said to the Americans, as I said to the Russians, try me. I wrote in my email, when we had a ambassadorial meeting on the 21st of April last year in the Keshe Foundation Center, I explained to the Americans, with their representative in the presentation, I explained how they lost their spycraft. And the meeting finished on 21st at 10:30 at night. His Excellency President Obama, on the shell of protection on the 23rd, the following Saturday, less than 48 or 36 hours later, he issued a decree that anybody who can produce or develop a technology which Iran can use for jamming system, because I showed you how it's jammed when it can absorb radars, it becomes a terrorist organization. I didn't wait. Immediately I put on my phone within 48 hours, since when His Excellency President Obama, the leading leader of the West, issues a gagging order against scientists.
Right.
And then we had the second presidential ambassadorial meeting in our center on the 6th of September when the ambassadors attended. And what do I get? I didn't go into fight because there is no need fighting. I prayed for His Excellency President Obama. He will see the day after light. And what happened? On the 6th of November, he asked for the technology key. The same man who issued the decree to silence it.
Right.
Yeah. So we know how to talk. I've been brought up by diplomats. In being working in that level for 20 years, you build friends in high levels, but you never speak. So I get advised by very competent diplomats around the world. How and where we sit. Keshe Foundation is not just an organization just because if you heard about it. It's been a process of 20 years of doing everything perfectly, step by step, in time. And now time is for the peace. Because there are two things. We have started encouraging and developing the energy and the space program. In a very short while, Chinese will be in Washington in no time. Not in one or two, in thousands. Africans will turn up all over the world because you or West or governments who think they robbed them for centuries, now they want the benefit of what has been taken from them. They want the same color television you have in your house and the same freezer and the food. Two things. We start another war, but this time it's 6 billion against 1 million rich, 1 billion rich, or we start spreading everything equal and we support them, we give them all the knowledge and technology which they have, we have as theirs, and then we bring equality and peace. And the byproduct of this is not just peace, because as I explained to you in the last talk, we are setting the scene for joining the humanity into the bigger society of the universal community. As humans, as men of justice, men of being correct, not as the animals of the universe. If you read my entry in my forum recently, and it's the same in the papers of the peace treaty, we've been well observed. The reason we've been not been, or we think we've never been seeing others, is just because of as you and I walk on the street and we see two guys fighting and crawling and they're drunk, we don't want nothing to do with them. We walk the other side of the road in case if they touch us. The same thing has been done with humanity. We are the animals of the universe. It's us to change, to stop drinking and fighting, to join the other ones across the street. When you work the level I do and you understand the structure of the universe, life is not exclusively of this planet. It's a natural process, intelligence is a natural process, and then you understand, can you say you could be, are we the center of the universe? As we found out we were not. Sooner than other people can think, we will find out we are not the only creatures of the universe either. And the universe is a peaceful place because, as I explained to you, you want metal in the space to build a house. You use the fields of the environment to create what you need. Now we have the knowledge. There is no time for greed and fighting for what is free to hold the whole of the universe. It's just us men, I think, because of our digestion system and a little bit of brain, which we thought is very advanced, we've chosen the wrong path. Now we're correcting the path. In a very one single, you have to do it in one go. You can't do it in the steps. There is no choice for steps because there will be too much abuse and the abuse will be more drastic than the past. That's why we gave our keys to all the nations at the same time. The leaders of the world who understand are calling for the key to have the knowledge not to be behind, to be equal.
Right. Now, we've come to the end of our segment here, but how can we, the viewers, support this treaty, this World Peace Treaty process? What can we, the viewers, do to help support this process?
There are people who are signing on the internet, but we know millions of people already downloaded and signed it in their own homes and in their own hearts. It's not the numbers on the internet, it's the number of people who understand what this can change. The way to do it, we show it is done and it's correct to be done. contact every ambassador in your country and your ambassadors outside your country. This is what we want. This is what we're asking for. World Peace Treaty. We are signing into it, and we sign ourselves into it and our nation. In the end of my talk with you, in the last talk, you said, I apologize on behalf of my government.
Yes.
For what they did to me. I think we got to go one step further. We got to apologize from other human beings for what we done wrong to them ourselves. When you put your thinking the right way, you'll live the right way. It's very hard at the beginning, but then you don't think that way. And call the embassies, call the ambassadors. We've shown it is possible, it can be done. Go to the embassies, hand things over to every politician, mayor, and everybody else within the next 2 weeks. That the steps comes in, that we can go into the next steps of the international level. It cannot be done by one man, and it has to be by hundreds and thousands, and explain what it is. I put a link on my forum recently, and that is a guy started Israel loves Iran, and the Iranians in return have started putting it back to them, Iran loves Israel. Just add more nations and neighbors and brothers and sisters to the same thing. We are made of the same and we end up in the same way. What we are fighting is nothing. It's just the dust of the earth, which doesn't last that long. But, as I said in my last talk, if you're head of a arm manufacturing, gun manufacturing, military, defense, even in electronic defense, whatever, ask yourself before you eat the food, how many people have I killed today that has put this food on my table? How many people would have developed caused the fathers to go to bed without the son and the sons without the father? And if you can live with that and eat the food you are eating, then you're a just man. The same thing with the children who get educated in the same way. The father's in defense technology. My father works as an army, a military, blah blah. The food you're eating, the education you're receiving is by loss of a father, a son, a child, a daughter, a mother. Would you like your son not to come home tonight? Would you like your father doesn't come and get killed in a car crash? Where your own education has come from the death of another man. It's not education. This is not education. You're eating out of the blood of another person. Change what we did in Western Bloc. Change the tools of arm to tools of music and feed, and then we see where we're going to go. It cannot be done by people. It has to come from the hierarchy. It has to come from people like His Excellency President Ahmadinejad and President Obama. They have to go, as I said in my last talk, if United Nations is too far for the Israelis and the Americans and the Iranians to talk about peace, Keshe Foundation is in Brussels. Everybody comes to Brussels. We welcome you the way we welcome your ambassadors. Don't just come and take a key and run away. Use the key and the knowledge to come and talk peace. But it has to be done by everybody at the same time. I was in Italy and we put it on our forum. People are proud, highly educated people are proud to put their signature into it. Because they know it's changed, the game has changed. Because the space has opened a new horizon for the man to find a way out of this restriction of this village of earth. We are not committed here to be, and we have opened the door, and in so many ways, we have added to a knowledge of man in one more step. And this is not the end. This is the beginning of beautiful new structure. In so many ways, if we know what we are doing with ourselves, we'll find it, the others will do with themselves as well. I had recently, in my Mondays, we get people coming from all over the world for us to see, for medical applications. People know Mondays I'm there. I sit in there and I see people come with a wheelchair, they bring people in bed, they come with the sticks. They're flying from Sweden, from Africa, from Australia, from everywhere to be there to use the new technology. And I see, for example, a woman who wants to be paralyzed because she can't take the abuse of the husband anymore. She can walk if the husband is not there, but when the husband is there, she has to be paralyzed, otherwise he abuses her. This is the justice of man to man. So we see a lot of harshness. You know, in Belgium, according to the police statistic, that is what the people who are in this process tell us. And I've met with the people who are involved in this process heavily. According to the police statistic, 25% of children in this country are sexually abused within their family.
Whoa.
And that is a Western nation, kept under the carpet. Why does a child in Europe has less value than the one in Africa? We put the presidents in Africa in prisons for child abuse or child soldering. Why a child soldier should not be the same as abuse as a child who gets abused in the house in the West? Does a child in the West have less value than the one in Africa? Who's keeping who silent and for what benefit? These are the things which we have to put right. I have a child, 7 years old, is in the press in Belgium. My son was targeted deliberately by the school and the family of the school and the headmaster because I'm the only foreigner and he's the only foreign child more or less in the school to be out of the school. And he's home for past 2 months with bullying by other children. They beat him and everything else, but this is a Western world, Europe. I live in a village of 1,000 people in Belgium. There's one corner shop, there is one takeaway which can buy hot food, and there's a garage. And my wife has been brought up in this village.
Mm-hmm.
They will not serve me, my family, not even my wife, because I'm the only foreigner. And this is the 21st century in Belgium, the most advanced backward nation in the world.
Wow.
And that's one of the reasons we are moving out of Belgium very soon into Italy.
Oh, good.
Because racism, does it be on a sexual way, color, language, nationality, exists in a very strong way. I lived in England for 29 years. I never felt a foreigner.
Mm-hmm.
I've been here 9 years developing technology, and I never knew such a racism. And I'm very proud of it. They're extremely. The father of the child called my wife on the phone, says, "We're going to make sure your son is out of the school."
Wow.
Yeah? And this is Belgium, Flanders, the most advanced nation. They're not advanced. You can dress the monkey whatever you like. The monkey doesn't change underneath. You can go to Harrods and go to the most expensive places, buy the monkey the most beautiful clothes. But it doesn't stay. This is when I speak about, because to achieve peace, you have to understand you're nothing. You're there to serve. Mm-hmm. So we don't talk out of people say, oh, he just talks because he's there. We have the tools. We can enforce peace. Believe you me, Iranian government, thanks to Officer Ahmadinejad, His Excellency Ahmadinejad, and His Eminence Ayatollah Khamenei, they could have done a lot of things wrong with the tools that's in their hand. Iran is a peaceful nation. We have shown it. Yeah? So stop making people enemy to sell arms. Make people friends that we all go to space and open a world community to each other.
Exactly.
If the American defense technology would like to play a game with Iran, let them go and play. As I explained to you last time, on the 25th of November last year, I had a break into my house. The officials came to my lab. They locked my lab up that I could not show on the 26th, on a Saturday, the first car which can fly without any engines. The same process, gravitational magnetic field. They locked my systems up. They sealed it, they put a police seal on it. I took the officer outside. I said, this car is supposed to be shown flying tomorrow. He says, you don't have a license, you have nothing, you can't do anything. They didn't come here to stop me. They came here to discredit me and my technology, that there is nothing. So the following Saturday, we had another. This presentation until 20, it's on the internet. You can see it
Right.
in Eindhoven. So on the 26th of November last year, we couldn't show the flight system in 2011. Yeah? And then what happened? On the following Saturday, because I give a lot of lectures around the world,
Right.
this presentation was in Holland, in Eindhoven. So we had already a presentation booked in Ghent, in Belgium, for the following Saturday, the 3rd of December. On the 3rd of December, there was over 100 odd people in the presentation. We gave a black bag to everybody. We said, this is a black bag, your phone, your cameras, everything goes in the bag, nobody can take a picture. For about an hour and a half, we opened our suitcases. All the reactors, the space reactors, were shown in public. And we showed the video of the weight reduction, which is now on the internet, over a year ago. And I said, for what you did to us last week, in what you did trying to embarrass us, soon Iran will show the power of this technology. On the 4th of December, the following day, American drone was captured, 27-meter wide, most advanced spacecraft you have ever manufactured. These machines are controlled by 6 to 8 satellites all the time. They have self-destruction unit internally that if they're captured, they can be self-destroyed. That nothing goes in the hand of the enemy.
Yeah.
Captured, perfect, landed, and is shown around the world.
Wow.
The day after we announced the power will be shown. And strange enough, 3rd of December, on the anniversary of announcing that the Iran will show, and we showed the first time a space reactor, space technology, spaceship program. On the 3rd of December, the day we showed the first time on the anniversary, the second American spycraft was captured. To celebrate. World peace is in our hand, we can enforce it.
Right.
You can make, I wrote in my letter to His Excellency President Obama, we can make F-16, F-18s, runways of F-16, F-3, F-18, a museum of metal birds. And we can make the most advanced nuclear ships in the world like bathtubs with no engines in the oceans. All you need to do is saturate them with an electronically magnetic gravitational field at the same time. The way we know how to change MS, as I explained to you, converting the carbon to diamond, you can do the same from remote. To get a F-16, F-18 to fly again, you have a carcass, you have to start the whole electronic and the engines from the scratch. The same thing with the most advanced ships on the oceans. When you saturate, you know how to change the characteristic. No chips will ever talk to no chip. So let's talk about the peace, because we have the tools to enforce it. How do you want us to show it?
Right.
Where do you want us to show it? To show it should not cost a single man's life. Joe was a very good example of it. It didn't cost not a single life, but it showed the proof of the technology, how peace can be brought forward. Yeah? So we didn't develop the capture of the drone just to show. The development of the capture of the drone was done to capture asteroids and other materials which could be earthbound. If we get a satellite which is going rogue and we all sit and pray it won't land on our country, now we have a technology to capture it safely and bring it back.
Right.
It was done for those kind of purposes in deeper space.
Right.
So we have the technology, and from now on, we can enforce it. Who wants to play the game? And it's not me anymore that they can kill me anymore.
Right.
Funny enough, we came back Tuesday, second Tuesday of the January from holidays with my wife. The next day we had 2 police officers, and the guy had no decency. He comes and sits in my house with his hat. He's a shot man. He's a killing man. And then the next day, when I'm not home, 8 of them come and bash my wife around. The Belgian police, Belgian federal police, pushing my wife while I'm on the phone on the other side, 30, 40 kilometers away.
Oh.
This is how works in most advanced nation in the world, Belgium.
Oh,
I'm not the only scientist. Scientists, we get pushed around, we get forced around, but this time is out. People are building the reactors, they're putting in there.
yes.
It's not Iran anymore. Bulgarians have got it on the side. The Italians have it. The Russians are doing it. The Chinese are building their own reactor.
Yes.
If you go to the system, now the force is two ways. We sit and talk very quickly. We put a structure around the whole piece that will be equal for everybody. Or take your time. Before you know, it's too late. How many millions of Chinese would you like in front of the White House? Because you know all these cars you sell to Chinese, you're manufacturing millions of them. Every one of them can reach United States within less than half an hour. This is the technology. This is what is in hand. It's not just lifting. It's now that there is no borders. Governments have to sit down. The World Peace Treaties sit down and put a structure not anymore for nations, but the whole humanity.
Right.
Going to do it? How are we going to foresee feeding everybody? Why should thousands of tons of food every day get dumped in the North Sea and the Atlantic to control the food, where thousands of people die of hunger in Africa?
Right.
Yeah? Why? Why do we do this? What's the reason? To control? Now there is no price. Let them sell as much guns as they like. Nobody will buy. Let them manufacture as much F-16, F-18 they can. They will never fly. The peace will come out of the technology, a strength of the technology in the hand of people. And now we set it up. Now the World Peace Treaties, we gave you the knowledge. I'm teaching people on my forum. I tell them if they're wrong, but they're right. In the past 3 weeks, I couldn't do because of a lot of commitments with everything else. They don't need multinationals anymore. Multinationals work with people to create a comfortable life. But the multinationals are needed to guarantee looking after through pension policies or whatever, the old and the needy and the rest. The old man around the corner cannot make his own system. He will still need somebody to manufacture it for him. But now the multinationals manufacture in each nation for the nation, the asset states for the nation. So the asset states to be used by the people who actually paid for it. So the asset states, you don't need to pay billions of dollars a year to other countries to import oil, because now that money becomes part of your own asset nation. The Italian, diplomats and the politicians have understood the message very clearly. Because you do not need to import oil anymore, where you can produce energy, and to create energy to run a house will cost about 2 or 3 cents a year, no more. No more. But at the end of the day, people who have a house and use the energy to run their lights and machines, to buy the energy up to now, you pay taxes which helped in running the schools and the streets. So the government has to put a structure, again, back the way they tax your car here in Europe, according to the capacity, how big the engine is. They have to put a structure from now on. Each household pays so much that you can have the road cleaned up, the police force is kept, the schools are there, the teachers to be paid. Then we see how it's a full change of the structure of what we set up before. And it comes out of, if we are planning to release at least 1 million, 2 million of these systems very soon. Let's say in Belgium, if 500,000 people buy the system, there's 500,000 people not paying taxes for the fuel for their car and not paying taxes for the energy they use. The deficit is going to be worse in the nation's, central bank.
Right.
They have to sit down and program in advance, well, this is what's coming out, this is what we prepare to do.
Right.
All this is stealing and robbing. So the World Peace Treaty is not going to be just for me. It's for me and my commitment to my next door neighbor, to my nation and the rest of humanity.
Very good. Very good. Well, we want to wish you all of the power of the universe, all of the power of Source, as you move forward on behalf of all of us and all of us with you on this mission. And we hope that from time to time we can meet with you so that you can report to us, to our listeners, on your progress.
I think you will hear a lot of people report themselves what they've done.
Good.
I'm a picture which is disappearing in the shadows. People are taking over themselves.
Very good. Well,
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your time.
Certainly.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.